Well, go on, everybody. Yeah, man. Welcome back to TG Inside Jamaica TV. I'm your host, TG, and thanks for making this your go-to place for everything Jamaica, of course. And I just want to take time out to say we've noticed that amongst our audience, we have a lot more of our mature audiences. More mature people are on this channel, and we really appreciate that. And it's something that is a reflection of our everyday interactions in our community space, because we are really close to our elders. Not just that we respect them, but we are really close with them because we learn so much from them. And to find that our channel is being appreciated and being watched and loved by so many of our elders, it just means a whole lot to us. So we really appreciate that. Thank you all for doing that. Now, today's program, we're focusing on one of Jamaica's smallest parishes, but one of the most beautiful nonetheless. Full of industrious people, nice people, very nice people in fact. But there are things that are happening in this space that we cannot overlook. So as usual, we'll do our fair way of doing things. We'll do it in a balanced way where we weigh up, the good things, the positive things, the progressive things. But we'll also look at some of the negative things, some of the things that needs to be changed, and some of the things that needs to go away. Which parish we're talking about, of course. Stick around to find out. Welcome back, people. So as we said in the introduction to this video, we're focusing on one of Jamaica's smallest parishes. And that parish is Hanover. And as a Hanoverian, I just want to say, big up to all of my Hanoverians, whether you come from east side or west side. But as a Hanoverian, there are some things happening in Hanover which part, I really have to really talk about. And that is what this video is about today. Now, I can't speak about the parish without going backwards to give a brief look at how things have changed in my eyes and the reason why I'm doing this video. So going back, growing up in the 1980s to 90s, my community that I'm from in Western Hanover, Cardwell, and its environs, the only thing you used to hear about these places was peaceful, fun, nice. These were the things that you used to hear people say. These places, what a nice little community, man. You have some nice people, and the people them, come out and support things, and you go watch a little football match at the ball ground, or you go watch a little cricket match on holiday time. You used to look forward as a child when your parent would carry you out. There's a visiting team coming to come play a little cricket with like the Ashanti team and them things. And you look forward to these things and these community events, whether it's like sadly someone passed away in our family and you are turn up for the grave digging, or you turn up for the 9 night, the 8 night, whatever the occasions. But all we can remember, most of us who grew up in that period, was the peacefulness of the community, the harmony that was there amongst people. Now, that is not to say that you never had skirmishes or people never have quarrels and arguments. Of course, there was that, and there will always be that in society. As long as you have people amongst each other, you will have disagreements. But overall, growing up in the community, it was to be one of peacefulness. That's what I remember it as. And this is not to say that there was never issues within the community space where there was violence or there was anything like that. It's just to say that the overall perception of what the community was before used to be one of peacefulness. Yeah, man, a togetherness used to be there. And this could be said for most of the communities in and around, my community that I grew up in. Fast forward to today, and there's a lot that have changed, some of it for the better. For example, the homes that people live in now, generally speaking, our homes are a lot better. It's more upgraded, it's more modern. We have more We definitely have more things, and also our, the standard of living has been raised over the years. And this is a progressive sign, and this shows that there are steps going towards a positive outcome, towards a positive future in that direction. However, on one hand, whilst we are having this progression, there's also the fact that we have some negative things happening in this space. Crime and violence obviously has reared its head, but that's not just the only problem. A big problem that we have within the community space, community neglect, segregation, which never used to be issues that we had before. And all these are tied in, because wherever there is segregation and community neglect, crime and violence, follows right behind. It's just like you get a cart and you get two horses to pull it. So you have community neglect and segregation, the two horses that pull the cart. And of course, on the cart, you go find crime and violence because they follow behind. And that is to say, wherever people are segregated, it means people will be less inclined to get involved and interrupt things before it gets out of hand. So if you have your friends and you live on one street and your friend live on another street, and you have a problem with someone from the street where your friend live on, more than likely, if your friend go get involved, it's because they have a connection with you. Even though you're not from their street, they have a connection with you. And so that integration means they're more likely to get themselves involved by saying, I'm on a done, man. This can't talk over. But when there is segregation, meaning everybody in their own separate camps, their own separate groups, it simply means nobody wants to step out of the box. Nobody wants to be the one that is going against their little group in support of someone outside. And I say that to say, when I look at it, growing up, the difference was there was no outsiders in the community. You couldn't be an outsider, or you can't be an outsider if you live in the same community. There's no such thing. And that's one of the things that I'd like to pass down to especially younger generations growing up. That when you live in the same area, or when you live in a surrounding areas, so if you are from Kingsville, Green Island, Grange, Pale River, Friendship, all these people are your neighbors. And that is not to say you can have your friends them will come from your corner where you're more close to because you see them every day. But integration is important. You have to integrate with other people. And this is a message to all our young men, especially. Integration. Be integrated. Forget the segregation. Forget thinking about only the little space where you're in. Because why? You still have to leave that space at times. And it's always better. It's always safer. It's always a more enjoyable space when everyone is together. Take, for example, the player fields. I look at the player field in Cardwell, and that is a prime example of what I mean in community in decline. Gone are the days when people come out on holiday time. You come out and you come watch cricket match. You have players from Pale River over Scheme. You have people from Prospect. You have people from Cardwell itself. And they're all on the same team. Then they represent the same team. And you have visitors come in and everybody happy. The visitors then feel welcome, then feel so happy that some people don't even return to where spot they come from. Right now, if you check it, there are people who've come to the community as visitors who haven't left. And the reason why they haven't left, because they felt at home. They felt welcome. Fast forward to today. The player field that used to be, a highlight, used to be a spot of pride within the community, is now what? A place spot you tie goats. Grass grow up on it so tall that sometimes when you walk through the grass, if a man walk on the road, he can't even see you. That's what it's become. And all this contributes to the segregation because it used to be the meeting place for youngsters. And again, young men. This used to be the meeting place for young men, where whichever part of the community you come from, you would meet up there. And by having that social connection, those social communication and that social interaction, it meant you form bonds. That when you leave from that area, would be part of the society growing up. So as you grow older, you would still have your friends them where you have fun, play field days in the regular society, and it would create that harmony. Which is why older generations live better now, because they have those bonds from when they were younger. Now today, what we have is more segregation amongst our youngsters. And this is driving them to be so anti-connecting, so distrustful. You know, the least thing you hear, no friends, no this, no that. But without friends, life is less enjoyable. Without people being connected, life is less safe. Life is less enjoyable again. So I just want to reach out and say in this video, you know, to whoever the young man that may be listening to this video, I just want to say, as one of the persons from these communities, there's a joy that I find when I see young people integrating and interacting. And that is what I want to see continue. The other day I was there, and you know, I get the football thing restart, and I see the young people and come out, and it's a nice feeling. You get all the older people talking, and you hear people are talking, and I say it's a joy if you see young people come out and play some football and enjoy themselves. It make the community feel more alive. It make people feel more safe to go about their business. So these are some of the things that really need to be encouraged, that really need to be enforced, that really need to be, you know, be happening more. I can't put focus on this without looking at some of the issues that has led to what is happening now. Because in my view, I liken this to a forest. And hear me out on this. If you think of a forest, you'll have the older trees. You know, the big trees that they did it for a long time. Then you'll have some other trees that grew up big on the side of them. All the way down to you have the little tree them will just start grow, the little sapling them. And what you have is that each one or each group keeps the other in check or keeps the balance in that forest. Now, if you went in and you cut down one entire group, or you know, decimate one entire group, you know, cut all of them, but you take out most of them. So let's say you take out most of the middle group of the trees. What you find is that only the old tree them left and the little tree them. So that forest will not be as connected as it used to be. It will not be as fruitful as it used to be either. The same thing applies now in our communities. And in my view, what has happened is that when I was growing up, I had bridges to the older generation as a youngster. So there were generations above me that would keep me in check, that would pass on values from the older generation down to me, but would pass it in a way that is more modernized to my generation. So for example, people who were from the 60s, they would pass on certain skills and certain, you know, attitudes and values to those who were born in the 70s. And likewise, the 70s would pass on down to the 80s, which is my generation. Now, what that meant as we grew up, we didn't come up without having people there to keep us in check on the streets, for example. So as a youngster, if you turn up on the street and you went out of line, it didn't take someone who was much older to keep you in check or to show you the right way to do things. You would find people who were almost your peers to do so. People who you respect. People who you look up to, because these were people who you were constantly around. Now, what has happened? That middle group that usually form the bridge between the older generation and the youngsters has been decimated. And it's not been decimated by saying people, you know, have died out or anything. It's been decimated because that generation, that 80s generation especially, many of those youngsters who were prominent within the community spaces are no longer in the communities. And that's my generation. We are no longer in the community. And this is because most of us have migrated. We are out, and this is something that is happening in many spaces, not just my little area that I'm from. But a lot of what is happening now, if you trace back to what I'm saying, you will see the facts. So, this is not to say we could all stay there anyway. But, there is a point to be made that had we kept some of these people, in the community space, those coming up behind would have had a bridge between them and the older generations. And why this is important? The older people in the community who have served the community well, our past teachers or, community members who've gotten into the years, the pensioners, these older people, the grandmothers and grandfathers and our uncles, our mothers and fathers, same way. What has happened with them is that they've devoted so much time and effort already in their communities and to their families that now is the time for them to rest. So you can't have them trying to take on the mantle of dealing with what is happening on the outside of their home. It's no longer their burden to bear. They've done it already. So who does it fall on? The people who should be in the bridge group. That year, those year groups that are between them and the youngsters coming up. And why that is important? Because that is the group that can relate most to the youngsters. Because we are closer to them. And many of us are more respected in an influential way because we are just, a few years away from them. Or in behavior, we are generally more like them than our older people. So take, for example, if you're going to look at dress codes, our older generations, dress code is completely, it's like miles away from what youngsters will dress today. But that middle generation is not so far. So you have more common ground between the groups. And it makes it easier for them to integrate. It makes it easier for those youngsters to listen to that middle group. But when that middle group is missing, what you find is like going back to the forest idea. Those younger trees that would take time to grow because you have that middle group of tree, a middle group layer that would filter sunlight down to them to then take a longer time to grow up. No, what will happen? Then just spring up straight and grow up fast. And by doing so, our youngsters are basically left to guide themselves because they don't have any guides. Who are their role models? Who are the people that they look up to? Who are the people that they're listening to in their youth groups when they go around and sit down? Don't forget, they don't have the information that many of us in the older groups would have gotten. They don't have it. So where are they going to get their answers from? And this is why it's so important that we keep a balance within, the connection points within our communities. And that is not to say this is going to solve all the problems. No, it won't. It definitely won't solve all the problems, but it goes some way to addressing a lacking that is there. And it's obvious. It's glaringly obvious. So today I just want to say, to all the young people out there, things that are happening, a lot of the negative stuff that is happening, it's not entirely your fault why some things are happening, even though you do bear some responsibility because your actions are always your own actions. You can't blame people entirely for your actions. Irrespective of the environment that you're in, you have to take some responsibility for the things you do. And if you don't have the role models that would generally apply in a situation where you can, look to certain people to take certain positive attributes from. It is always a better way to listen to the elders, even though you are so far removed by age group and the way they think. It's always better to listen to them than to try and go at it alone, which is what is happening a lot now. I see a lot more young people trying to go at it alone without wanting any involvement, any interference from the older groups. But what you're doing is you're taking yourself away from the sources of wisdom within your space, within your community space. Because the elders has more wisdom. They've been there. They know a lot more than you do. And yes, when I was growing up, just like you, there were times when there were things that the elders would say that I would look at and think, well, I think I know better than that. Or I think I know this more. Only to later find out that they were right. So this is why it is important to maintain that balance. And I'm happy to say that I see lots of positive young people still. Amidst all the doom and gloom, amidst all the negatives that are happening, there are still positive young people. Still positive young men out there with spark, they hold up their head and I try to push forward a positive message and I try to bring a positiveness in the community space. But there's a lot more that needs to be done. And the time is now. And this is a general call to say, let's come together. Let's rebuild and rebuild better and stronger than what it was before. Because it can be done. There's nothing that's stopping it from happening. As long as we put our hearts into this, as long as we put our efforts into this, we'll reap the benefits. And think forward. That's what I will say to every young man out there. All the young people out there, I'd say, think forward. Is this the communities that you live in now? When you look around you, is this how you'd want your children to grow up and consider your communities? Because that's the thing we are looking at from my age group and from me personally looking at. When I look around or when the elders look down and look around, that's what they're thinking. This is not what they fought for. This is not what they strived so hard for. Don't forget, those people, many of the older people, when they grew up, they didn't have things. They didn't have the things that we have now. They didn't have access to the things we have now. But what did they do? They go out there and make sure it happen. Just like you have a play field right there, so they make certain so then come out and the play field always clean, the play field always cut. They have their little cricket pitch, they make certain so then take care of it. And as children, we come and enjoy these spaces. So the same thing applies now. We have to now take on the mantle. We have to now come out and decide that we want more. And we want our community to be the best community. That's what it has to be. We have to be telling ourselves that the space where we live in, we want to feel better. We want to see look better. We want to feel more happier. We want to feel more connected, more enjoyable. It can't be that the communities will just be stories of the past. No, there's always stories to be written in the future. And how they are written will depend on what we do. So I say this again. When I look at Hanover overall, there's been a genuine neglect on so many social issues that our communities have fallen behind. There are some communities that are still doing well, who have moved forward because there are still people active within those communities who have kept the bonds, who have kept the bridges going. People who've been idling that machine, who have made it possible that these communities still function and keep alive the good things about those places. But as we see now, the ugliness of crime and violence is more rampant in our spaces. And whenever these things come about, the sad thing is everyone is affected. Because it affects not just the immediate people who are directly involved. It affects the entire community. Why? Because like I said, we're all connected. I may not live beside someone who live in a Pell River scheme or up at Kingsville or down a Prospect. My house may be so far that I can't see for them house. But if something happens to someone there, it's more than likely it's gonna be someone that I know. And how am I affected? Well, when something happens to someone that you know and you know directly, of course you become affected. Because maybe you'll know the mother of the person. Maybe you'll know the sister of the person. Maybe you'll know, the brother or the uncle, someone. And when you see that person, as we always do in Jamaica, with, communication is a big part of our day to day. We communicate with everybody. Everybody talk to everybody. That's one of the good things about us. But when you see a mother, for example, who's been affected, what do you say? Or when you turn up somewhere and you see a group of your friends where you didn't know for a long time, and you realize that there's a fracture between them, to the point where people may think you need to pick your sides. No. That's one of the things that I'm saying we need to cut out. What we need to do is get more people together more than pulling them apart. So if you find anyone amongst you who are pulling you further apart, look that person in the face and tell them, no, we're not having that. That's not what we are about. We want more unity. We want more togetherness. We want to see more events like what we did have other day. Where more youths can come out and enjoy themselves. And everybody talk and laugh and play some football and go on our yard. We want to see more of that. We want to see more party they keep, and wherever the party they keep, everybody can go. So as one of you, as somebody from the community space, as somebody from the Western Hanover region, who deeply care about what is happening in these spaces, I just did this video to reach out and say to all the young men especially, but to everybody in general, let's retake our communities. Let's rebuild the bridges. Let's reconnect. Let's reintegrate. Let's move away from segregation. Let's deal with more interaction, more communication, talk more, laugh more, enjoy ourselves more. Because that's the only way we're going to make a better future for the ones coming behind. Now, if you like this video, or if you found something useful in this video, I just want to say, thanks for giving us your time. Thanks for listening to what I have to say. And definitely, if there are points within what I've said that you don't agree on, definitely leave a comment. We can have a conversation about that. And even if you agree, you can share your views on what you liked about this video, or what points you thought, maybe you want to elaborate more on, or you want to just touch on something. Definitely feel free to do so. And, this is just the beginning of what I envision, can lead to lasting changes and positive changes. So thanks again for watching our video. Catch you next time.